Chapter 986, Choice. There was also another issue that kept nagging on Zhou Dequan's mind, which was something his daughter Zhou Qing told him. She said that Tang Xiu had helped resolve his enmity with the Huang. He had previously ignored the thought because he thought that Tang Xiu had no ability. But now it seemed that his daughter was right. All things considered, it was he who had looked down on Tang Xiu. All of you, remember this. Be sure to be polite and respectful whenever you meet Tang Xiu later. He's a very powerful man, much more terrifying than the Huang family of the Fukang province in China. He's someone who we cannot afford to mess with. Understood, replied the few middle-aged men respectfully. In another direction, Singli led 13 shaman guardians of the Dark Shaman clan to silently lurk above tens of coconut trees. Shielding themselves amid the leaves of the coconut trees, they calmly observed the battle scene in the distance. Their purpose in coming here was originally to prepare for Singluan's rescue and not to be involved, even though if the people under Singluan were all killed. However, the current situation really shocked him too much after Singguo and his men couldn't get the upper hand at all. Even more accurately, they were completely unable to defend themselves against Singluan's side. What should I do now? The thought kept nagging his mind, yet he was still unable to find a solution. Help Singguo? That was not even an option as it was not the order he received from the patriarch. He could not take any action rashly, yet, could he just sit still while watching Singguo and his men get completely destroyed? He fell into a dilemma for quite a while. The scene of the battle was decorated with the glint and flash of cold steel as it reached max intensity. Tang Xiu moved lightning fast and killed nearly 20 people under Singguo in just a few minutes, all alone. In a similar fashion, Tang Guang also reaped in the battle, every flicker of his sword harvesting a combatant's life. Singguo, my dear big brother. If I were you, I would just kneel and obediently give me your neck for me to cut your head off, said Singlu. The excitement made his blood boil and his body tremble. It was the scene he had been dreaming of countless of times that had finally come true. Singguo was currently being besieged by Singluan and the feminine woman, and the man had a look of despair evident on his face. Even in his wildest dream, he had never once thought that the trash that was his younger brother would have equal power to him. He also thought that the little bitch next to him was nothing but trash. But now, she turned out to be as powerful as him, even enough to force him to bow his head when the two of them joined forces to fight him. The most important thing of all was that his side with 40+ people were now currently being crushed by the other party up to the point of being nearly annihilated. Only a dozen of them now remained, all wounded, and some were even gravely injured. He had lost. He knew that he had fallen into a trap devised by Singluan and Tang Xiu tonight. The outcome was his tragic defeat and the deaths of his men. It was such a grave mistake that it suffocated him. Scram! 2 of his subordinates among the 5 guardian elders were trying hard with bloodied bodies to fend off Mo and Jin Shi's group of 11 and were just barely able to survive the encounter. The other 2 elders had now even determined to perish together as they rushed over to Singluan's 5 guardian elders and began engaging in combat. There's no escaping for us. One of the guardian elders suddenly wore a firm look. He heaved a long sigh as his figure streaked into the sky and shouted, "The rest of you, protect young master and run. Just remember to avenge me." In a flash, he dashed tens of meters higher. Suddenly, his body combusted with a black flame. A heatwave came rolling out of him, moving into the surroundings and increasing the temperature by at least 7 degrees Celsius. The faster he cast the incantation, the more blazing and increasingly powerful the black flame became. At this moment, whether it was Tang Xiu, Mo, and the rest, all of them wore a surprised expression. Everyone could faintly sense that the old man was likely casting a forbidden art with formidable might. Singluan and his men, however, looked horrified and panicked. They never thought that Singguo's guardian elder would make this decision. They knew that once the darkness forbidden art was cast by their clansmen, the result was not as simple as just dying. those who died still had their souls retained. Those who cultivated in shamanism and wizardry also cultivate their souls, and their clansmen could help gather their souls once they died. After years, they could make their souls enter reincarnation and be resurrected. But this darkness forbidden art only had one outcome, which was to make their souls scatter into nothingness. Don't do it, Fifth Elder. With a painful expression on his face, Cinco let out a shout and wept. The fifth elder floating in the air just let out a smile and shot a deep glance at Cinco before his body exploded. As his flesh and blood splashed over along with the black flame, the flame instantly descended from the sky. It was like a rain of fire, though the flame was black and brought about devastation. A few kilometers from the battlefield, the scene made Swadequan atop the water tower infinitely shocked. No matter how knowledgeable he was, such an artificial horrifying scene was something he had never seen. Are they supernatural beings? Rumor had it that such people existed in the world. Swadequan had heard about it as well. He also had heard about people with bizarre abilities, as well as a group of people called cultivators. The two groups of people before his eyes were a perfect testimony to this legend. But still, it's very strange. Some people with Tang Xiu should be from the same origin as their enemy. Tang Xiu himself looks like an outsider, whereas the two sides should similarly have experts with the same abilities, making them genuine rivals. Don't tell me there's an internal fight in that mysterious clan and one of them is seeking Tang Xiu's help? If so, is this the real reason why Tang Xiu brought his men to Bangkok with such secrecy? Swadequan stroked his chin in thought. In the other spot, the thought that Cinco would lose had never come to Singli's mind. The thought that nearly 50 people under Cinco were almost annihilated was simply unbelievable, especially since Singluan's side lost very few people. On top of that, 2 of the 5 guardian elders under Cinco had died. One of them even died after casting the darkness forbidden art. This was really tragic and miserable. Singli himself had experienced numerous battles, yet he had never encountered such a tragic situation. The fact that Cinquo's guardian elder sacrificed himself only to give Cinco a chance to escape was unimaginable. Alas. It seems like there's no need for me to act. Singli shook his head. Cinquo's guardian elder had used the darkness forbidden art, so Singluan and the rest must have escaped already. Although only Cinco and his 3 guardian elders were left alive, it was much better than all of them being annihilated. You damn Chinese. You want to get involved in the internal strife of Dark Shaman clan, huh? Regardless of who wins between Singluan or Cinco, I must report this to the Patriarch. Revenge is a must. They must know how great the price is for killing any clansman of the Dark Shaman clan. Shall we go back, Elder Singli? The leader of the 13 Shaman Guardian, a middle-aged man with a chilling aura, whispered to him. He thought that the problem was gone with the escape of Cinco. Yet, Singli hesitant for a moment. Then, he shook his head and said, "We'll wait a bit more." The battle was brutal and the outcome could change at any moment. We can't afford to have any peculiar circumstances occur here. Understood. After having a killing spree that claimed the lives of the Dark Shaman clansmen, Tang Xiu looked up to sky. His eyes were gleaming with a chilling expression as his figure then flashed into the sky. At the same time, his hands constantly moved, casting a seal art. Overlapping layers of water curtains then formed tens of meters away from the ground. Although the black flame was hugely destructive, the water curtain had too many layers, and the volume of water contained in it was too much for it to evaporate. Most of the black flame was simply being extinguished by the water. What a trivial skill. At this moment, Tang Xiu cast another seal. Dark clouds quickly enveloped the blue sky and quickly crashed down. In just a few breaths, all of the black flames had been completely extinguished and had dissipated in the air. Kill them all. Tang Xiu relentlessly issued another order. In the distance, Tang Xiu's technique made Singli shocked and frightened. He never thought the darkness forbidden art of his clan would be so easily broken by others. It must be noted that the price to cast this forbidden art was far too great to pay. He was hardly able to turn his head to look at the leader of the 30 shaman guardians next to him. He could also see the shock on the man's face and how stiff his body was. Act now. Protect Xingguo and leave. Lips squirming a few times, only then did Xingli issue an order with a bitter expression. The 13 shaman guardians moved like arrows unleashed from their bows atop the coconut tree. In just a few breaths, they had arrived around Xingluo with their respective crescent sabers. Overlapping layers of mist instantly emerged and covered all of them within. Xingli came flying and stood a few dozen meters above the ground. He stared at Xingluan and said, "Let's stop here and now. The patriarch won't interfere with the power struggle between you both, but neither of you can die." Just as Xingluan saw Xingli, a scowl instantly appeared on his face and he furiously shouted, "Did father send you here to help Xingguo to kill me?" "He did send me here, but it was to protect you, not Xingguo." Xingli shook his head and forced a smile. "Your father said that power struggle between you both will prove who has the ability to be the future patriarch of the clan. But he absolutely doesn't allow any one of you to die." Xingluan was stunned and shocked, looking at Xingli with an incredulous expression. Inwardly, he also agreed with what Xingli said. Perhaps in his father's heart, he was not as good as his big brother, Xingguo, and thus believed that he would fail in the end. However, now was the perfect chance for him. As long as he killed Xingluo, he had a chance to be the patriarch of his clan. If he were to let Xingguo go because he was afraid of Xingli and these 13 shaman guardians, it would be equal to letting the tiger go back to the mountain freely, leaving behind endless troubles that would haunt him in the future. Chapter 987, Disowned Dogs. A complicated look was visible on Xingluan's face as he looked at Xingli, just as countless thoughts of uncertainty flooded his heart. He had gradually learned Tang Xiu's character during the contact he had with him. He was well aware that Tang Xiu helping would be very unlikely in the future no matter how hard he tried, if he didn't kill Xingguo now. What should I do? Kill or not? Tang Xiu floated down to his side and said indifferently, "I still remember that your ultimate goal is not just killing your big brother, Xingluan. You're bound to kill those who go up against you should you want to claim the patriarch seat of your clan and take over the clan's power. Just remember, petty kindness will end up bringing you endless troubles in the future." After this reminder, Xingluan's face slightly changed. He shot Tang Xiu a deep gaze and then raised the saber in his hand, loudly shouting, "Everyone, heed my order. Xingguo must die today. Kill whoever dares to intervene without mercy." The declaration made Xingli's face drastically change. He glared at Tang Xiu first before yelling, "Knock it off, Xingluan. Is this not enough already? Don't tell me you'll also kill your father for your ultimate goal? You've won today, the patriarch seat is bound to be yours. Why do you still want to kill your brother and your own clansmen? There's no way I'd kill my father. I know he's always good to me, but age has come to him and he rarely has time to manage the clan's affairs after cultivating. It's a much better idea for me to replace him, as he can't fulfill his responsibility. As for Xingguo, he and I have come to the point of no return. Do you think he'd just behave and won't try anything against me in the future after I let him go today? Get the fuck out of my way, lest you'll die with him." A smile crept up on Xingli's face despite the extreme anger he had. He then shouted, "Then we might as well help your big brother since you're so stubborn and are so adamant in killing him. 13 shaman guardians. Protect Xingguo and return. The three of you, the situation has come to this point, do you think you still have any chance of leaving this place alive?" Xingguo's 3 guardian elders exchanged dismayed glances. They understood the meaning of Xingli's words. A sorrowful smile appeared on their faces and the trio gathered in the blink of an eye. Their figures then flashed upward and overlapping black flames emerged around them. One of them then shot a deep stare at Tang Xiu and shouted in a clear voice, "Young man from China, you have formidable power and you're also a very powerful cultivator among your kind. You just broke the darkness forbidden art cast by my brother, but can you stop this forbidden art cast by the three of us?" "Really, seriously?" sneered Tang Xiu with his hands crossed behind his back. "Are you sure the three of you can join hands and put it to use?" Puff. The air around the guardian elder was as though distorted, and a black figure appeared behind him in that instant. At the same time, a sword pierced his heart and slashed the muscles, bones, and meridians to the left of his chest. The glittering cold and sharp sword then continued to chop off his left arm. "Let us deal with these three buffoons, Grand Master." Tang Guang flew up into the sky. His white robe rustled in the air and, in almost an instant, he joined Tang to form a sword array. Images of swords flickered and swept the black flame as it trapped the two guardian elders within. A smile appeared on Tang Xiu's face. He retracted back his eyes from them, shifting them to Singly, stating apathetically, "Well, I think you're the only one who can cast the darkness forbidden art now. It makes me curious, though, can you really rescue Xingguo? If anything, I am even more curious whether my men have what it takes to kill all their prey." At his statement, Mo laughed aloud as he and Jinshi's team of 10 flashed and instantly appeared around the black mist, forming the decagonal heaven extinguisher sword array. He then laughed and said, "They are nothing but ants, boss. But I'm afraid you have to deal with that Singly geezer personally." Singluan paced 2 steps forward and said in a deep voice, "No. There's no need for Mr. Tang to act. I've long been wanting to see the ability of the second strongest expert of my dark shaman clan. 5 guardian elders, I need your assistance to kill him here." At this time, only then did Singly feel an intense feeling of crisis looming over him. He just observed Singluan and his 5 guardian elders and was aware that they must not be underestimated. It was likely that he wouldn't be able to face the 6 of them together. Further, there was also Tang Xiu, a fearful man whose eyes kept staring at him, making him feel dread. Inside the black mist and while protected by 13 shaman guardians, Xingguo's expression was ghastly pale as he appeared lifeless. He knew that he had lost. It was a complete defeat, and even if he had a chance to make a comeback in the future, he would likely be unable to contend with Singluan anymore. He may have had the chance to fight Singluan's side if his 5 guardian elders were still alive. But now, the chance was as sure as gone already. Cough, cough. He coughed severely a few times and slowly closed his eyes. But after a few seconds, he immediately opened them again and shouted in a heavy voice, "I admit your victory, Singluan. I'll leave Thailand and will never go back again to this land forever." "Seriously, dear brother? You've been a very smart man before, but why have you become so muddle-headed today?" mocked Singluan. "Do you think I'll just let a tiger run back to the mountain to give me endless troubles in the future? Your promise is nothing but bullshit in my eyes." "Do you really want to spare none of us here?" shouted Xingguo angrily. "You even want to take over father's position? Che, the Dark Shaman clan has been silent for too long." "What era are we living in now?" said Singluan coldly. "It's better to move forward, else you'll fall behind if you wish to live better in this era. Let alone a small Dark Shaman clan, I will also take a chance to face the Celestial Wizard clan in the future." A billowing aura flowed out of Xingguo's body. He raised his hand and crossed the black crescent machete in front of his chest, saying in a heavy voice, "If that's the case, then let's get it over with. As long as I'm not dead today, I'll forever haunt you until I kill you." At his declaration, Singluan's expression turned more solemn, and he ferociously roared, "No more useless talk. Kill." The mortal combat unfolded again. It much more intense than before, causing the buildings in the coconut plantation to collapse, destroying the coconut trees and throwing their leaves everywhere. It was like the advent of the apocalypse. A lot of birds flapped their wings as they passed by the scene, but ultimately met their unfortunate end after being shattered by the clashes of sweeping sword energy. as well as the black mist that filled the air. Atop the water tower in the distance, Zhuo Dequan's lips twitched as he looked helpless and dismayed. It was a calamity caused by others, but as a bystander he still had to bear the brunt. The cost was too big for him to bear. The nest he had been operating for more than a decade now actually became the battlefield for outsiders and was eventually destroyed. "Boss," called out a middle-aged man in a whisper with a dismayed scowl on his face. "Say no more. It's the price for the mistake I made." Zhuo Dequan shook his head and said, "But Tang Xiu is truly a ruthless man. Not only does he kill so many people, but he also remembers my rejection and brings ruin to my coconut plantation. Never mind it, there's nothing we can do. We'll just need to rebuild it after the end of their battle. What I'm worried about is not the destruction of our site, boss. But the underground warehouse where we store a lot of our gold bars," said the big man. "If the underground storehouse is exposed and these people find it, that will be too great of a loss." "The gold?" Only then did Duo Zoquan's mind turn blank and a panicked expression appeared on his face. Before he left the coconut plantation, he didn't order his men to move all the gold from there and instead just sealed the underground storehouse. Yet now, the battle was too intense and had destroyed the building. If the entrance to the underground storehouse was exposed, saying that it wouldn't attract the greed of these people was nearly impossible. It was very likely that they would seize the massive gold he had accumulated. What should I do? Zhuo Dequan paced back and forth a few times as an idea suddenly came to his mind. He took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. After his call was picked up, he asked, "Have you settled Jing and the 2 children?"
"Yeah,
"We've got them settled, boss." The voice of his trusted man came out in a low voice from the phone. "We got some unforeseen events here. You'll bring back Chang and the 2 boys secretly here," ordered Zhuo Dequan. "But remember, do not go to the coconut plantation. Take the southeast path and head to old Anja's place directly." "Understood," replied the man as they directly hung up. As Zhuo Dequan put away his mobile phone, he said with a helpless face, "As of now, I can only hope that Tang Xiu will look at Qing's face and take no offense from the rejection before. Perhaps only Qing can help preserve the gold should they find it." "We got no option but to keep the gold, boss," said the middle-aged strongman in a deep voice. "We won't be able to fulfill Kanaja's demand otherwise." "Of course I know that, but," said Zhuo Dequan with a helpless expression, "you also know those damned bastards. One side is a bunch of monsters and demons, the other one is a bunch of freaks and ghosts. We can't afford to mess with any of them." At this moment, several kilometers away from the scene, 3 black SUVs came rushing toward the coconut plantation. Inside these cars were 8 men and a woman with quaint attire and particularly strange auras. Each of them brought a cold weapon and emitted out a faint bloody smell from their body. From another direction, more than a dozen cars also rushed to the coconut plantation. In one of these cars was Kanaja, eyes gleaming. "Godfather, we've come at this time. Are we going to be involved in their fight?" There was a look of worry on Songzan's face. He couldn't help but ask. "We'll just stand to the side if we need to get involved in this," said Kanaja lightly. "We'll take the side of the winner and have some wine over their victory if we get involved. The situation in Bangkok will and must change. We got a dragon who crossed the driver and a bunch of local snakes. It will be very troublesome for us in the future if we don't prepare as soon as possible." Chapter 988, Rebellion Before the Battle. At this time, the 2 parties' combatants no longer hid their full strength in order to exterminate their opponents in the coconut plantations battle. They literally unleashed everything. Most of the buildings inside the plantation were ruined, while dozens of acres of the plantation had been destroyed. The Dark Shaman clan itself was far inferior to the Celestial Wizard clan, and their experts were much weaker than the Celestial Wizard clan's experts. Therefore, Singli, who was the nominal second strongest expert of the Dark Shaman clan, was hardly able to fend off the onslaught of the encirclement. Bloody wounds now decorated his body and made him alarmed. The 13 shaman guardians were very strong, especially when all of them joined forces. The tenebrous domain they just formed was a great obstruction to Mo and his team. Even if the latter had formed a sword array, they could only barely gain the upper hand, and they weren't able to cause fatal damage to the 13 shaman guardians and Cinquo. Break the siege quickly. Singli furiously roared during his struggle to fend off the besiegement. He gritted his teeth as a decisive look appeared on his face. He pulled out 2 black metal balls and retreated backward in the blink of an eye. After distancing himself from Singluan and his 5 guardian elders, he shouted, "You've just forced me, Singluan. We came to save you, yet you actually want to exterminate us. If so, then let's perish together. After all, Cinquo is much better than you as the head of the Dark Shaman clan." The moment Singluan saw the objects Singli took out, his pupils instantly shrunk and he looked horrified. He shouted, taking out the Dark God Thunder, "Are you fucking crazy, Singli? How dare you use the Dark God Thunder? You want to use it so all of us die with our souls scattered into nothingness, unable to reincarnate?" In response, Singli's eyes just sparkled with a chilling light. He said fiercely, "It's all forced by you. I don't have the ability to fight you all, so the only option is to drag you all to hell with me. But if you draw back now, I won't resort to this desperate measure either." This? Singluan knitted his brows. After stopping the 5 guardian elders, he then turned to look at Tang Xiu. "What's Dark God Thunder exactly?" asked Tang Xiu indifferently. "It's a fearsome mine-like object our Dark Shaman clan's ancestors have spent a lot of effort to refine. Once detonated, the explosion will raise an area of several hundreds of meters. If 2 Dark God Thunder were to be detonated simultaneously, the explosive power would increase by several times, and everything within a radius of a kilometer will vanish in the blink of an eye. Further, it also has 2 other horrible effects. One of which is it contains potent poison. Even if one can resist the explosion, they will still die by the poison. But the second effect aims at the soul of human beings, a witchcraft flame that will burn the souls and simply erase them, leading to a true death. It's rather similar to the darkness forbidden art of our Dark Shaman clan. That's quite vicious and malevolent." The explanation made Tang Xiu comment in his mind with a bit of apprehension. He then looked at the 2 Dark God Thunder in Singli's hand before he fell into silence for a short while. Then, he asked in a low voice, "Does your clan have many of this thing?" "No. The manufacturing process of the Dark God Thunder is very difficult. We only have about 20 of them even after manufacturing it for generations after generations." Singluan shook his head and forced a smile. "Also, as far as I know, 8 of them have been used, meaning that my clan only has 12 of them left. The Dark God Thunder is usually under the control of my father and is sealed in our clan's vault. I never thought that Singli would turn out to have taken 2 of them." "Does your father allow any members of your clan to have it?" asked Tang Xiu. "This object is definitely a fatal threat to him as well, don't you think so?" The question made Singluan's eyes sparkle. He then replied in a heavy voice, "Your question is on the mark, Mr. Tang. All the patriarchs of the Dark Shaman clan have a strict decree that none of us are allowed to have the Dark God Thunder as a private possession. Otherwise, the person will be regarded as rebelling against the clan. The punishment for the crime is death. Hence, nobody among us would dare to hold the Dark God Thunder secretly, unless that person has a malicious intention. It's evident now that Singli has been harboring evil intention by having this object in his hands." In that instant, Singli's face paled like a sheet. He had indeed been hiding the truth from the clan patriarch, Singchuo, for taking 2 Dark God Thunders. He had been planning to use it on Singchuo once he had a good chance someday. As long as Singchuo was killed by then, he would become the most powerful man with the highest position in the Dark Shaman clan. It was very likely that he would become the patriarch of the clan. He had secretly vowed to himself that he wouldn't take the Dark God Thunder out unless he faced a critical moment of life and death. But now, he was facing such a crisis, which forced him to take this object out and prepare to use it to save his life. Alas, I don't think I can go back again to the Dark Shaman clan. The Patriarch won't let me go even if I survive here. Shit, forget about it now. It's an issue for later. I must pass this crisis safely now. I'm not too old and still have decades to live. It's still possible for me to reach a higher cultivation level and extend my lifespan for many decades. He understood deeply that being alive was much better than death. Although he unleashed a seething killing aura and put on a ferocious appearance, he was still worrying that Tang Xiu would still insist on killing him due to not knowing the power of the Dark God Thunder. Tang Xiu himself was currently staring at Singli while analyzing countless solutions in mind. Then, he asked with an apathetic face, "You are Singli, who's said to be the second expert of the Dark Shaman clan, yes?" "That's correct," replied Singli in a deep voice. Tang Xiu took out a cigarette and lit it up. He took 2 deep puffs and then said slowly, "When you took out the Dark God Thunder, it is a fact that you violated the decree of your Dark Shaman clan, as well as rebelling against the code made by your ancestors. You've been harboring malicious intent and have been covering up your sinister scheme. Once the news gets to your clan's patriarch, you'll definitely pay a painful price even if he doesn't kill you." "What exactly do you want to say?" asked Singli in a heavy voice. "It's simple. You've lost your place in your clan and will soon be exterminated by your own clansmen, so you're nothing but a stray dog now," said Tang Xiu. "Do you think it's still worth it to tear off all the decorum with us now? You mean, you want me to give up protecting Xingguo?" Singli's eyes filled with coldness. "Are you planning to let me go as long as I give up on him?" "That's right," answered Tang Xiu without hesitation. "We won't bother you as long as you don't hinder our operation. I'm sure you know the whole story that has unfolded here. You're also perfectly aware of everything that happened between Xingluan and Xingguo. Now, it comes down to a simple matter. Xingluan's purpose is to kill Xingguo and to become the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch. You can leave at any time if you're not in our way." Singli's complexion changed several times. After being silent for several seconds, he finally nodded and said, "I give you my word. I won't bother Xingluo with anything regarding his life. But there's one condition I demand from you." "You think you're qualified to make a demand?" "You're not," said Tang Xiu. "I can tell you one thing. You'd definitely die if I wanted to kill you, even if you use those 2 Dark God Thunder bombs. I'd only need some other means to do that aside from killing you directly here and now." "Fuck it. My condition is very simple," said Singli angrily. "Xingluan must not send any clansmen to hunt me down after he becomes the clan's patriarch. I can vow that I'll come to help him 3 times if he needs help in the future." Tang Xiu just stared at him for a moment, then couldn't help but laugh. But Xingluan looked joyful and he said in a deep voice, "I can promise you that." He then turned his head to look at the black mist nearby and asked, "What should I do with these 13 shaman guardians, Mr. Tang?" "Those who follow will prosper, while those who resist shall die, and those who suit their actions to the times are wise," said Tang Xiu with a grim expression. "There's no need to kill them if they give up resistance and no longer fight for Xingguo. They are, after all, the elites from your clan. If you're going to be the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, then you'll need their assistance as well." "That's right. The 13 shaman guardians are the elite of the Dark Shaman clan. Losing them will be a great loss for the whole clan, but each generation of shaman guardians only pledges loyalty to the patriarch," said Xingluan. "All of you, you have my word that once I become our clan's patriarch, I'll definitely entrust you with better position and responsibility. I'll also foster your cultivation to a much higher level than my father's. I've already told you all that the Dark Shaman clan has been idle for far too long. Our clan needs drastic and decisive reform. We must give our everything to make progress. Only when the influence and power of the clan as a whole has increased will we be able to have higher status and power among the others," And I firmly believe that someday in the future, our clan will be much stronger than Poland's celestial wizard clan. The killing aura of several shaman guardians inside the tenebrous domain was weakened by half. They exchanged glances and used special techniques to discuss Singluan's words. They were shaman guardians, the most loyal supporters of the clan's patriarch, while also a group boasting powerful strength in the clan. They always stayed away from the internal struggle of the clan, and wouldn't have come here if it wasn't for the order from the patriarch. Even if Sinquo and Singluan were to perish together, they wouldn't even spare a glance. But now Singli, who was supposed to lead them, had been a traitor, causing a dilemma. Sinquo, whose body was battered and wounded, could keenly sense the ideas the 13 shaman guardians had in mind. He felt like he had fallen into a glacier hole. Fear crept up and inundated his whole being, nearly making him freeze. You're all shaman guardians, the most trusted men of my father, as well as the most elite warriors of the Dark Shaman clan. Father wants you all to save me. Are you all going to defy his order? You also know that Singluan has yet to become our clan's patriarch. A firm and decisive look appeared on the 13 shaman guardians' faces. What Sinquo just said was correct. Singluan indeed hadn't yet become the clan's patriarch. However, the command given by their patriarch was to rescue. No, this was all wrong. Suddenly, the captain of the shaman guardians wore a strange expression. He then quickly used a special technique to communicate with his comrades. The decision had been made in just half a minute. We will withdraw, shouted the shaman guardian's captain. The declaration made Sinquo's face drastically change. He instantly guarded against the shaman guardians. With a vigilant look, he exclaimed loudly. Are you really going to betray the patriarch and the whole clan? He ordered you. Chapter 989, The Sudden Unforeseen Turn of Events. Shut up, the shaman guardian captain scolded grimly. The patriarch commanded us to rescue Singluan. He never said to save you. The victor takes all the rights, and the loser takes the blame. You're the loser in the power struggle of the clan, so we have the rights to abandon you. Singluan, can we leave now? Singluan was pleasantly surprised. He grinned and said, all right, you can leave immediately. Also, you can expect that all the words I've spoken just now will always be effective. As long as I become the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch, you deserve to get a just treatment, and I'll lead you to develop our clan. A smile outlined on Tang Shou's mouth as he ordered with a deep voice, deactivate the sword array and let them leave. Soon after, the black mist gradually dissipated and the 13 shaman guardians directly left silently with a look of indifference. Sinquo, however, instantly dashed toward the distance right at this moment. He decisively attempted to blaze a bloody path forward even though there were Shueisha and Heizian in his path. The struggle of a trapped beast is futile. There was no sympathy on Tang Shou's indifferent face as he watched Sinquo try to break through the encirclement from Shueisha and Heixiong. He was in line with the statement of the Shaman Guardian's captain that the victor is the law and the loser becomes an outlaw. Sinquo had aggressively led a lot of men to kill Singluan, so he needed to be prepared for failure and death as well. In this world, the principle of survival is cruel and brutal. A few kilometers away from the spot, atop the tens of meters high water tower, Zhuo Dequan's eyes filled with a sympathetic gaze upon seeing Sinquo's predicament. He shook his head and sighed. Who could have imagined that such a tragic end has come to a formerly powerful man? He had the world under his feet and is exceptionally adept in schemes. I guess nothing is truly absolute in human affairs in this world. I suddenly feel that being an ordinary person is a much better fate. A middle-aged man next to him replied with a face of approval, You're right, boss. Those who resort to murder will end up being killed. Sinquo took so many powerful men and aggressively came here to kill others. Yet the wheel of fortune reversed and he got himself trapped in the well-designed scheme devised by the other party. I'm now sure that the mastermind who laid the trap is Mr. Tang. Also, this victory is not a single win at all, but kind of killing two birds with one stone. Huh? Zhuo Dequan looked vacant for a moment and asked with a puzzled expression, what do you mean by killing two birds with one stone? Well, our coconut plantation is just destroyed like this, boss. Don't you think that he's killing two sides with only one arrow? He has just retaliated against us, no? Cough, cough. Zhuo Dequan coughed and raised his hand. A look of embarrassment could be seen on his face as he touched his nose and was unable to speak anything. Suddenly, another middle-aged man standing behind him had his face slightly changed, and he said with a quaint expression, there's a lot in this matter, at least more than meets the eye, boss. What we just saw should be the first half of the play, whereas the most thrilling scene should be coming up later. Xingguo is isolated and acts as a loner now. How is there any chance for any following scene to come up, argued Zhuo Dequan with a bitter smile. Well, I can only pray that they'll leave earlier now. I will otherwise lose a lot more should they accidentally find the gold stored under the rubble. Take a look at the right side, boss, exclaimed the man behind him. The road next to the river. Zhuo Dequan was stunned for a moment before shifting his sight to the right side. A look of surprise showed itself on his face as he muttered, some more people are heading here? Is this matter not over yet? I don't think this will be over just like this, boss, said the middle-aged man. Take a look at them, quickly. Those cars that have now stopped there. Oh my God. Their movement is so fast. It looks like they're even faster than ghosts. I can only catch their afterimages. It will only take them half a minute to arrive at our coconut plantation. In the coconut plantation. Xingguo had used all the trump cards he had, yet he was still unable to shake off Shueisha and He Xiong. The sword formation formed by their immortal swords completely suppressed him and kept creating wounds on his body. In just a minute or so, he had turned into a bloodied man, looking like he had just crawled out of a river of blood. If he remained stranded in this situation, it was absolutely impossible for him to endure another minute. He would be doomed to his death by Shueisha and He Xiong. Who are you? Tang Xiu's complexion changed all of a sudden and he instantly unleashed his divine sword. At the same time, his figure flew up into the sky and unleashed dozens of sword lights toward the spot behind the ruined buildings dozens of meters away. What a laughable attempt. A hoarse and old voice came from behind the rubble. A string of black Buddhist beads raised upward, their size magnified dozens of times in an instant and blocking the sword lights unleashed by Tang Xiu. However, several beads on the Buddhist necklace then suddenly exploded and shattered the moment after. Whoosh! 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 8 shadows flickered and instantly appeared in front of Shueisha and He Xiong. Afterwards, numerous darts shot at them from all directions, causing Shueisha and He Xiong to retreat dozens of meters away. They staggeringly retrieved back their immortal swords before appearing next to Tang Xiu. Xingguo, who had been previously besieged by them, was now being tied by 2 black chains on his arms as 2 handsome Caucasian men in black tuxedos towed him away. Well, well. You look very miserable, young Master Xingguo. A monk with 9 burn marks on his forehead, decked out in a Buddhist robe while holding a golden Buddhist staff, spoke with a smile. The string of Buddhist beads he used to block Tang Xiu's sword had flown back to his hands. This monk looked very old, humpbacked, and with a faint aura, yet, it was this faint aura that made Tang Xiu feel a bit apprehensive secretly. Upon seeing this person, an intense desire for survival appeared on Xingguo's despaired face. He hurriedly shouted, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master, Vajra Rakshasa, save me and I'll agree to your previous condition to join the Stygian Club. If you can help kill Xingluan, Tang Xiu, and all of them, I'll also bring the entire Dark Shaman clan to be your vassal after I become its patriarch. Tens of meters away from them, Tang Xiu shot a vigilant glance at the 8 people who just appeared. Their appearance was very different from that of average people. For instance, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master's thin figure was like a skeleton, looking so ancient and bizarre with his humpback, Yet it gave off a more fearsome vibe than shamans and wizards usually gave off. Next to this monk stood a huge man built like an iron tower. He was nearly twice the height of an adult man, over 4 meters high. The giant had bronze skin with iron chains wrapping his body. He gave off an enormous suppressing aura, like that of a beast from ancient times. Tang Xiu, who previously thought that Immortal was a burly giant, now thought he seemed to be a dwarf who paled in comparison to this mammoth of a man. The other 6 people apart included 2 handsome Caucasian men that looked like vampires, a white-haired woman with a ruddy and frail complexion, a tall man who wore female clothes and thick makeup that made him look demonic, a long-haired young man with a cross on his back and outlandish attire, and a black woman with iron rings piercing her nostrils, ears, and eyebrows. All of them, without a doubt, were far from being average people. It was very likely that they were also formidable people. The Death Dhyana Buddhist master still wore a faint smile. He circled around Xingguo a few times before sighing, "Well, we kindly offered you the invitation, didn't we? Yet you ended up declining it with all sorts of excuses. Now that you're facing an imminent disaster, you want to rely on our power, huh? Young Master Xingguo, how can such a good thing happen in this world? I'm willing to join you with my position as the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch," replied Xingguo hurriedly. "I'll bring the entire Dark Shaman clan to work for you in the future. Isn't that enough?" "Enough? Of course, that is sufficient." Death Dhyana Buddhist master raised his hand while his thumb kept pressing on the beads of his necklace. "However, I've seen too many people burn the bridge after crossing it. There's a little price you must pay if you want us to fully trust you." Xingguo's face slightly changed, and he asked in a deep voice, "What price must I pay?" The monk took out a black porcelain bottle from the sleeve of his robe. He then threw it to Xingguo and said, "There's a death zen pill I concocted in there. You can say that it's a very potent poison pill. If you dare take this pill, we'll move to save you. We can even help you to take over the patriarch seat of your clan." The death zen pill. At this moment, a look of dread filled Xingguo's eyes. He knew that this pill was used by Death Dhyana Buddhist master to control the life and death of those who took it. Those who took it must obey his order and could only obtain the antidote from him every 6 months to guarantee their own life and safety, temporarily. If they dare to go against his order, not only would they be barred from obtaining the antidote, they would also be miserably tortured by the violent poison for a very long time until they died. It was simply vicious and ruthless. He couldn't imagine what his fate would be like if he were to take the Death Zen pill. With a cold expression, Death Dhyana Buddhist master asked lightly, "What's wrong? You don't dare to take it?" Xingguo turned his head to look at Tang Xiu and Xingluan. His sight then shifted to the rest of his enemies in front, saying with gritted teeth, "I'm going to die. It's inevitable. No matter how unwilling I am, I have no other option left to preserve my life. You've given me the chance, so I'll take your pill. To live is always better than to die. As long as I'm alive, I can make my enemies pay the most painful and terrible price later." "Che, are you sure they can preserve your life, Xingguo?" sneered Tang Xiu with squinted eyes. Xingguo shot a stare again at Tang Xiu and fiercely replied, "I'm sure, so damn fucking sure. They are the top 8 assassins of the Stygian Club, fearsome figures at the peak of the totem pole among the rest. If they can't save me, that means you'd be able to enact your hegemony over the world. Just wait, Tang Xiu. I'll definitely able to kill you one day. At that time, you won't be dying alone, but all your loved ones will also meet a tragic and cruel death. I'll mercilessly slaughter your friends and all the people you care about. I'll make sure to make every one of their souls vanish into nothingness and never reincarnate." In that instant, killing intent seethed and boiled in Tang Su's heart. Touching his friends and relatives crossed a line. Whoever dared to have such a thought must die thoroughly and have no chance to be reincarnated. "Xingguo, you only need to die and then you can be free. That was the original intention. But now, I'll make sure to make you completely vanish from this world. The Stygian Club, huh? Humph. I've killed a lot of them, I don't mind exterminating 8 more. Chapter 990, The Anomaly of the World. At Tang Shou's statement, Death Diana Buddhist Master's eyes appeared profound. He paced a few steps forward and smilingly said, "There are too many people in the Stygian Club to count. But those people are nothing but insects in my eyes. It's no surprise if you can kill some of them. But don't boast today, and be careful with your tongue, lest we act and cut it off." Humph. How dare you be so arrogant and spit out such bullshit? You're just a former Buddhist who has fallen into a demonic path and transformed your dharmic divine power into a demonic one? Sneered Tang Shou. Old fart, I also know some Buddhist and Taoist powers. Since you want to court your death, then I'll fulfill your wish with the ability you most excel at. Death Diana Buddhist Master focused his attention on Tang Shou now, looking a bit grave and dignified. He had indeed been a Buddhist practitioner and could be said as an eminent monk of his generation. It was a pity that his evil tendencies and thirst for blood had prevailed over his goodness, leading him astray and turning himself from a Buddhist into a demon. He rebelled against the Buddhist school and then fled China, eventually becoming the Grim Reaper under the Stygian Club. From the clash he had with Tang Shou a moment ago, he had determined the latter's identity as a Taoist cultivator. But how come a young Taoist cultivator is also proficient in Buddhist's divine abilities? How can it be possible for one to excel at dual cultivation on the Buddhist and Taoist paths? Humph, don't wag your tongue too freely. Bring it on, let me see what you can do. The Buddhist staff in his hand fiercely pierced the ground as a blast of aura spread out in all directions. The blast of qi swept all the broken trees, leaves, bricks and rubble in the surroundings directly and sent all of them flying away. Vajra Rakshasa, whose body was wrapped by steel chains, suddenly treaded forward step by step. Dust flew upward as his right foot stomped on the ground, causing a small tremor, and he then threw a fist-sized steel hammer into the air. It immediately grew in size and enlarged to a weapon 3 meters long with a gigantic hammerhead in a flash. Death Diana, you know I hate arrogant bastards the most, just like these shits. Especially those who want to look like a fucking big shot despite their young age. Stay still and let me smash them into meatloaves. Vajra Rakshasa raised his right hand. The moment after, the hammer fell into his grasp. Overbearing, wild, and violent. There was also contempt on his face, as if this Vajra Rakshasa didn't take Tang Shou seriously. He didn't put everyone else in front of his eyes. His provocation made Tang Shou knit his brows deeply. This King Kong may look extremely imposing and strong, yet he didn't feel much of a threat from this giant. The one who gave off a much bigger threat to him was none other than the Death Diana Buddhist Master. As he saw that King Kong was about to move, he retreated a few steps backward and ordered in a deep voice, "Guang, accompany him." Dressed in his usual white robe, the casual and elegant Tang Guang just let out a smile. His figure smoothly flew like a floating cloud with his immortal sword revolving around him. At the moment when he looked to be about to sprint toward the giant, the trajectory of his immortal sword changed, cunningly sealing off any possible routes for the Vajra Rakshasa to retreat back. Well, big fella, I hope you're not the kind who looks big but is trash. Vajra Rakshasa's pupils shrunk. They just came here, and he knew nothing about Tang Guang's power at all. But the latter's speed sent a chill down his spine. He fiercely slammed his hammer down, and a series of sparks suddenly splashed. He indeed possessed enormous power and his speed wasn't affected by the size of the hammer at all. The hammer's shadows crazily swept to left and right as his footsteps made some sure footing forward. What I hate the most is fucking pretty boys like you. I'll change my name to yours if I don't kill you today. With a ferocious look on his face, the King Kong man sprinted and appeared before Tang Guang in no time. His fist that was the size of a cooking pot sent an onslaught of punches to Tang Guang's forehead. The black chains that wrapped both his arms were constantly squeaking under the tremor of his bulging muscles. A contemptuous look flashed in Tang Guang's eyes. If it weren't for the chains wrapping this giant's arm, this King Kong may have been able to give him a headache, as he needed to find a better solution to deal with him. But now, a brilliant idea came to mind. Lightning. As he cast a seal, a flash of lightning suddenly blitzed down amid the dark night, accurately hitting the chains that wrapped the Vajra Rakshas's arm. What? King Kong's body turned stiff. In an instant, a slit appeared on the hammer shadow shield he waved. The immortal sword then moved like a living creature and passed through the gap. The moment after, a blood fountain sprayed into the air and the huge giant's head was thrown away. Tang Guang retrieved his sword back and flew back to Tang Xiu's front. With a casual and gentle look, he respectfully reported, "The enemy has been killed, Grand Master." Tang Xiu raised his thumbs up and praised, "The method you did was very effective. That fellow was so proud and arrogant like Lucifer, yet he ended up being killed by you so easily. Anyway, it was tribulation he deserved, wasn't it?" Tens of meters away from them, Death Dhyana Buddhist master stared at the headless corpse of Vajra Rakshasa with blood still spraying out from his neck. His eyes were gleaming with a look of disbelief. He was as though just swallowing up a dead rat, creating nausea in his stomach. He had long known Vajra Rakshasa and was naturally aware of how strong he was. Yet, he was easily killed by his enemy's calculation of the chains that wrapped his body. The two vampire-looking men behind him exchanged glances and stepped back at the same time. They also used chains as their weapons. They were afraid that if they had to fight Tang Guang, the latter would use the lightning bolt to paralyze them and then seize the chance to kill them with this despicable tactic. That was interesting. I never thought Vajra Rakshasa to be so unlucky, though. He ran into a cultivator proficient in lightning spells and just got killed like that by his opponent's deadly scheme. Anyhow, would you like to exchange some moves with me, mister? The petite female with white hair and a ruddy complexion stepped forward and spoke to Tang Xiu with a faint smile. Tang Xiu was silent for a short moment. Then, he suddenly smiled, revealing his white teeth, stating, "Well, having individual combat is kinda boring, though. It's kinda wasting time and now it's close to dawn already, so I think we better have a gang fight. What do you think about it?" The petite female's face immediately changed, and she replied with contempt, "Humph. You wanna gang up on us because you got numbers on your side?" "Yup. We're gonna use our numbers to bully you. What's wrong with it, anyway?" Tang Xiu nodded and smilingly replied, "If you're so upset, why don't you come over and bite me? You court death." A baleful look burst out in the eyes of the female with a childish face and white hair. She took out a flute made of bone from her loose robe in that instant and blew it. As she played the flute, the residual branches and leaves around were instantly blown up by an invisible wind, forming a twisting wind. Ding, ding, ding. Suddenly, the sound of a metal string of a zither collided with the sound of walloping armored horses' feet. Although the flute sound was loud, the zither sound was able to suppress it in but a moment. The twisting gale, composed of broken leaves and branches instantly broken and scattered. The female's pupils shrunk and her complexion enormously changed. The gale surged out and rolled ahead ceaselessly like a continuous flood at her. At this moment, everyone present was looking northwest because the zither came from that direction. Tang Xiu's eyes also sparkled. He had no idea that there was someone else lurking around them, more so that this person was also proficient in music, using its rhythm to help his side to fend off their enemies. It was evident that the other party was a friend. "Thank you." Tang Xiu cupped his fists and spoke in a deep voice toward the northeast. In that instant, the zither music turned fiercer and more violent. It was like a flash flood of ferocious beasts coming down from a mountain peak with abnormal overbearing momentum. It was acutely sharp and somewhat rushing forward, just like the sound of the friction between boulder and steel. Except for Tang Xiu, the rest felt tremors in their eardrums and their hearts trembled. But the childish-looking woman who became its target bore all the brunt and felt like an earthquake had hit her heart. She shook her head violently and was forced to stop playing her flute. Puff. She then felt salty sweetness in her throat before coughing up blood crazily. Her body then trembled and swayed a few times before staggering backward. Shoo. While she was unprepared, an immortal sword suddenly emerged behind her out of thin air. The complexion of Death Diana Buddhist master and the other 5 greatly changed, yet it was too late for them to rescue the female as her head was cut off directly. Tang An's figure then flickered before she vanished without a trace after her appearance. Tang Xiu, however, looked at the northwest directly and shouted aloud, "Your distinguished self, why don't you show up since you've come here? Tang Xiu is grateful and appreciates your assistance." A note of zither came out as the response. As the last note dissipated, the world was back to its calm state. Silence descended, yet no one appeared. Tang Xiu quickly released his perception toward the northeast, only to frown afterward since the other party had left quietly. He guessed that the person had not yet gone far away, but the distance was beyond his scope of observation. "You go." Tang Xiu looked at Tang Guang and ordered. Tang Guang slightly nodded in response. His figure flickered and left an afterimage as he instantly flew to the northeast. He appeared beyond 10 kilometers away after half a minute. To his frustration, there was no shadow of the other party in the surroundings. It was as if the person's speed was much faster than his, like the person had already left and was more than tens of kilometers away. "I failed to find the person, boss." After Tang Guang returned to Tang Xiu's side, he reported with a bitter smile and shook his head. Tang Xiu nodded wordlessly. That person didn't want to appear, nor did he want to force it. In fact, he had a faint idea of who the person was, but he wasn't 100% certain since he didn't see the person himself. Death Diana Buddhist master shot a deep look at Tang Xiu and the rest. Murderous intent was looming in his eyes, yet he also had the intention to draw back. 2 out of 8 people among his party had kicked the bucket in just a short time, which was already a fearful occurrence to him. It must be noted that every time one of them went out, it was enough for each member to create a storm in the region and inflict severe damage to that area. "You're Tang Xiu and a cultivator from China?" asked Death Diana Buddhist master in a deep voice.
Yeah.
"I'm indeed called Tang Xiu and am Chinese cultivator," confirmed Tang Xiu with a smile. "What's wrong? Do you want to retaliate later so you asked me this question?" "It's just natural that I want to know the identity of our enemy," replied the monk coldly. "Since we're enemies, you can expect to have us retaliate against you in the future." Tang Xiu, huh? Humph. I'll remember your name. You know, if you want to run, just say so. Yet you're still using words with me? Do you find it so fucking fun or something? Asked Tang Xiu a smile.